When you're a professional athlete, the best thing you want to do is set a good example for your fans and support. You do not want to be caught cheating or anything like that. But in NASCAR, cheating is kind of encouraged in a way. Bending the rules to your advantage is something that has been going on in NASCAR for decades, and it will continue to always go on until the end of time. But there have been instances, there have been times where cheating has gone over the line, where drivers and teams have pushed the boundaries and limits of the rules and been caught red-handed. And in this video, we're going to look at some of those instances, just like when Clint Bowyer intentionally spun at Richmond in 2013 to bring out a caution and help his teammate Martin Truex Jr. make the playoffs, which is extremely against the rules. As Clint Bowyer spun the car out intentionally, which is, like I said, extremely illegal, even the camera malfunctioned, and that seems very fishy in itself. During the same race, there was even a controversial moment with Joey Logano and the 38 car on the track. It seemed that somebody from Team Penske had paid off somebody at front row to help the 38 car give the position to Joey Logano and help him also make the chase. This was caught on audio, and no penalties were handed out to the 22 team, even though this was blatantly cheating.
22 could really use the spot we got, bud.
Dave, we're going to have to let this 22 go. He's about a half a straightaway back. He's the only position we can lose. There's 8 to go. He's about a half a straightaway back.
It better pay big.
It's not the spotter. It's the whole committee.
Committee knows what I've been asking for.
But this is what I tell you. Juan Pablo, what a shocker. Sets on the pole. But you know what, Juan? It doesn't really matter. Because if you sit on the course pole, there's no guarantee you're in the butt shootout anyway. What the heck? You had shocks on that was wrong. NASCAR says that you have to go to 42nd. So you know what, Juan? So you missed out on the course pole. It really wasn't nothing there because you weren't guaranteed being in a shootout anyway.
In one of his only career poles, Juan Pablo Montoya thought he finally got one of his poles on a 1.5 miles at Kansas, but ultimately it was struck down after he failed post-qualifying inspection for illegal shocks on his race car. His pole time was disallowed and he would start last during the 2008 Kansas Fall race. This ultimately even hindered their shot at having a great finish that day. Jimmie Johnson is one of the greatest, if not the greatest NASCAR driver to ever exist. But even he had some illegal moments that were caught on camera. During one of the races, Chad Knaus told Jimmie Johnson if he won the race, he would have to back the car into the wall so it would pass post-race inspection. That was what was insinuated. If you win the race and you are able to damage parts of your car, it will still pass race inspection and the illegal parts could be destroyed or hindered. And that was Chad Knaus's and Jimmie Johnson's goal that day, and it was caught all on camera.
If we win this race, you have to correct the back of the car. Got it?
Really?
Yes. Got it?
Okay.
That's hard, but have to destroy it. But you gotta do a donut, you gotta hit the back end, or somebody's gotta hit you in the ass end or something. Okay? Alright. No. Can't take any chance.
You see here I'm waving. I'm a happy camper. I just won the race. And I crossed the finish line and I'm waving to the fans and I'm elated and boom! She blows all to pieces. It just proves one thing. It's better to be lucky than good.
You can't tell me a more hilarious cheating story than this one. Darrell Waltrip wins the Winston. He wins all the money. And as he crosses the start-finish line, his engine magically explodes. I'm not buying it. I don't think anybody in the NASCAR garage does, except for Darrell Waltrip. He ended up passing post-race inspection, but this had to have been an extremely illegal engine that was brought to the racetrack. The eventual 2006 Daytona 500 winner and champion of the 2006 season, Jimmie Johnson failed pre-race inspection for the Daytona 500. He had an illegal track bar mount that was not allowed by NASCAR's rulebook. During this week, crew chief Chad Knaus was ejected from the Daytona International Speedway and was suspended for the first 6 races. Jimmie Johnson would ultimately go on to win the Daytona 500 and a few more races after that. But this was a huge penalty for the Lowe's team to start off the 06 season.
The other controversy, the one that boiled over Sunday, was with Jimmie Johnson's qualifying run. The car was deemed by NASCAR to have an unapproved aerodynamic device. And Chad Knaus has been given at least a vacation through the Daytona 500. He won't be anywhere on the Speedway grounds. Jimmy Johnson, the driver, just held a press conference to address the issue. Dave Burns was there.
And Mike, of course, it sounds like he wanted to sort of deflect a little of the criticism early on, or at least tell people where he stood. So he started with a little bit of an opening comment where he used the word damaging in terms of how this affects the Lowe's team. But he also talked about the fact that he was not aware that there was anything going on with that particular mechanical change to the car. He says he encourages his crew chief and team to continue working within the gray areas to try to gain a competitive advantage. He's just the driver. But he did say that his role as cheerleader on this team was going to change a little bit because Chad was one of the biggest cheerleaders on this team. He's been ejected for speed weeks. He will not be here on Sunday for the 500. So Jimmy needs to become a little bit more of that.
It didn't hinder them that much. Continuing on from Hendrick Motorsports, it seems like they cheat a lot nowadays. But even back then, Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon were both caught cheating during the 2007 Sonoma weekend during the inaugural season for the COT, the Car of Tomorrow. They had modified parts in the vehicle that NASCAR did not like, nor did they approve of. They handed down a large sum of money penalty to both crew chiefs and suspended both crew chiefs for 6 races. And during the Sonoma race weekend, both drivers had to start from the rear of the field and not have pit selection. And back then, this was a huge penalty, especially without stage racing.
Jeff Gordon and Jimmy Johnson, teammates at Hendrick Motorsports, they failed inspection when they presented their cars to the NASCAR official.
Well, guys, it's a frantic final few minutes of practice here at Infineon, except for the 48 and 24 teams, as you guys mentioned. The work for both teams concerns the front of the race car. They're trying to get that to where it's legal. It will pass inspection. Again, NASCAR has said they must go through inspection today and pass inspection today if they want to be considered for practice tomorrow. That does not guarantee that they will be allowed to practice tomorrow. You can see Ron Malik, the car chief on Jimmy Johnson's car, working on that right front fender, bondoing it a little bit, if you will, to make sure that it will pass inspection when they go back through, when everybody else has to go through for qualifying.
That problem had to do with what NASCAR deemed body modifications outside the NASCAR parameters met in the rule book. And both of these cars, these guys working in the garage area right now, they were allowed to stay here today, even though the 48 and the 24 were not allowed to practice nor qualify here. But the issue had to do with the fender area. In fact, if you look at the left front fender of Jimmy Johnson's car, right around where it says Goodyear, that area was puffed up a little bit. So NASCAR made them cut that area out, put a new piece of sheet metal in, and then fiberglass it back and put the decals back over.
If you're a Hendrick Motorsports fan, you already know this story. Ray Everham brought Jeff Gordon one of the most illegal cars in NASCAR history that wasn't illegal just yet. Apparently, Ray Everham worked around the rulebook so well, it passed inspection, but that car became illegal after the race that Jeff Gordon won.
It ran one race, it dominated that race, and was banned by NASCAR. Gary Nelson at that time, or Buster, can't remember which one, said to me, Mr. France wants to see you. So I said, oh, I thought he wanted to congratulate me. Bill and I were friends, I was gonna go up in the truck, yeah, good race tonight, Bill, kind of whatever. So he says, he's sitting there, and he says, sit down. He said, you need to pick up that phone right there and call your boss and tell him that car's illegal. And I was like, what? No, they just said it was past inspection. I said, he said, no, it's illegal. I said, no, sir. We built that car by the rules. It's 100% legal by the rule book. And he said, it won't be tomorrow.
Johnson gets going, Montoya does not. They come to green, the field stacks up behind Montoya, then separates, and they're off to turn 1.
Yeah, Juan Montoya just did not even remotely get going.
Restart violation.
Jimmy Johnson jumped the restart. Whether or not Juan Montoya spun the tires on the outside on this restart.
That was the beginning of the restart box right there. You see those 2 lines on the inside, that's the restart box.
Yeah, he was well inside the box. No question about it.
The 2013 Dover race saw Jimmy Johnson jump the restart, costing him the victory, and ultimately getting a black flag and being brought down to pit road.